be broadcast live, as they always are, and you can watch it in the future as well. Plus, after the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll be suspending our regular council meeting, and we have two Community Facilities District meetings, the Quail Creek and the Rancho Cerrito Community Facilities District. And tonight's invocation will be given by Alex Magallanes, our Economic Development Specialist, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Julio Bartolini, a sixth grade student at Wrightson Ridge Elementary School. Alex?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Psalms 100 says, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving, go into his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good. His unfailing love continues forever, and his faithfulness continues to each generation." Let's pray. Heavenly Father, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity you've given us to be here. I thank you for our council members, the staff leadership, the staff, and every family here represented. I thank you for the blessing of this country and the freedom we enjoy in your Son, Jesus Christ. I pray your guidance for tonight's conversations. I pray for wisdom to fill our hearts and minds and guide our leadership. I pray for understanding and the spirit of honor so that we can honor each other despite our differences. In the precious name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Julio, come up to the podium.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And good luck in the 7th grade next year. Make good choices this summer when there's other things to do. I hereby suspend the town council meeting and commence with our Rancho Cerrito Community Facilities District meeting. I'll call that meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Here.
Board Member Lisk.
Here.
Board Member Lytle.
Here.
Board Member Morales.
Here.
Board Member Priolo.
Here.
Vice Chair Egbert.
Here.
Chair Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Next is item number 3, which is called to the public. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the district board on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the district board can lawfully act upon at a future meeting pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws. The district board may not discuss items, but individual members of the district board may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the district board, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda. I don't have any speaker cards. Would anybody like to address the district board for the Rancho Cerrito Community Facilities District? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public and move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we come to item number 5. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2025-033 of the Rancho Cerrito Community Facilities District proposing a 2026 tentative budget.
Thank you. AC Mariotti is our district treasurer, and when we, whoop, was that for me? Oh, I thought I heard something. And also, just for the audience to know, Mr. Dilly is feeling under the weather, so since AC was going to be doing all the talking tonight anyways about all the budgets, he will be the acting town manager as well tonight. So welcome, Mr. Mariotti.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I guess in this case it'd be the district manager.
Or district manager.
Right. Well, thank you for that. This agenda item tonight will provide the district board an opportunity to approve the district's tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, which commences on July 1. The tentative budget sets the budget ceiling for the year ahead So what you finally adopt in the final budget in a few weeks here can be no higher than what you approve in tonight's budget. So this is a required part of the process. Someone else will use this. Or maybe not.
Well, to talk to the district manager about technology.
What's that? Okay, thank you. Just talk to the district clerk for
There you go.
solutions. Yeah, all right. A little bit of background on the district, since we don't talk about it too often. Usually it's during this budget meeting, so it serves as a good reminder on sort of the history of the district and what it's about. So this district was formed on March 24th, 2014. It encompasses 943 acres, and that's all within the Sahuarita town limits. At build-out, it's planned to have 3,267 residential properties in it, as well as 1.25 million square feet of commercial space. So each year in January, we get reports from the county assessor's office that provides us with assessed value information on district properties. And the latest information indicates that there are 1,035 residential lots, which would represent a 32% build-out figure. So if you compare that 1035 number to the 3,267 total plan, that gets you the 32%. This number is 291 properties more than last year, so that's a 39% growth rate, which is just a phenomenal growth rate. About 5% of the properties in the district are listed by the county assessor as rental properties. The district also includes 13 commercial lots, and most notably, it includes the hospital. Okay. So this slide provides some historical information on property values in the district, and you can see that the trajectory of that growth, especially over the last couple years, has really gone up quite a bit. And you just look around at what's going on in the Rancho Cerrito area, and you see all the homes popping up, and that's a good indication that property values are going to catch up shortly thereafter. So the latest valuation of all property in the district is $31.7 million. That's an increase of $7.3 million, or 30% more than the prior year. And it's worth noting that about 11% of the total valuation is for commercial property, coming in at about $3.4 million from the assessor's rolls. Okay, so the district is a tax levying public improvement district. It's authorized in the Arizona Revised Statutes. Its purpose is to finance the acquisition and maintenance of public infrastructure and facilities. So when the district was formed, there was a bond election that was held, and the voters authorized a $60 million bonding capacity so that the district board could issue up to $60 million in bonds over the life of the district. To date, there's been 3 general obligation bond issuances, and the total outstanding balance of those bonds is $26 million. The bonds were issued to acquire roadways and sewer lines within the district boundaries. The district still has about $31.9 million in bonding capacity available to it. So out of the $60 million, you still got $31.9 million in potential future bond issuances. So I did mention 3 bond issuances, but you only see 2 listed there. And just as a reminder, in the 2018 series bonds were refinanced, and those were incorporated into the 2022 series. So what you have left are basically 2 outstanding debt obligations. Okay, so the district is legally separate from the town. However, because the town council members sit as district board members, because town staff function as district staff, because the district uses all of the same policies, procedures, and resources that the town has, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board says that it would be misleading to not include it in the town's financial reports. So the only time that you're going to see a standalone report for the district is here in the budget process. So the budget schedules that you have before you are it. Apart from that, all of the town records, all the town financial records, if you look at our accounting system, the district funds are included in the town's financial report. So on the town side, it's a blended component unit of the town, and the town reports it as a special revenue fund. So there's 2 districts, and each district is a separate fund. Okay, so with that, we'll jump into the tentative budget. So it's programmed at $9,233,410, and the budget is balanced, which means that our financing sources are equivalent to our financing uses. This budget is $8.1 million less than the current year budget, so that's a 47% decrease. And it's lower than the current year budget because the financing sources next year are lower, and that's because the district is spending its, when the GO bonds were issued, we had bond proceeds that were generated, and the district is spending those bond proceeds to purchase infrastructure. So as it spends those bond proceeds, the budget's going to continue to decline. Okay, so this slide provides the composition of the district's revenues and sources, the vast majority of which, 79%, come in the form of beginning fund balances, and the vast majority of that number is because of unspent bond proceeds, right? The amount that there's still going to be some money that hasn't been spent by the end of this fiscal year that's going to roll over to next fiscal year. This amount is $8.2 million lower than what you saw or what the town council saw during the budget retreat. The reason for that is because it turns out that the district engineer is actually evaluating certain segments of infrastructure that we expect to be acquired before the year is over. $8.2 million worth. When we put together the budget retreat presentation for the town council, that information was not known at that point in time. We thought it was going to carry forward to next fiscal year, but that's not the case. Okay, the district levies a property tax. That property tax is expected to bring in about $1.5 million. There's 2 components to that tax. One is for debt service. That's to pay back the bonds. That's one of the things that the voters authorized. And the other is for operations and maintenance. The combined tax rate is $4.99 per $100 of net taxable assessed valuation, and that number is unchanged from the current fiscal year, and it's been that way for a number of years now. Essentially, since the bonds have been issued, it's been at that rate. So of that rate, $4.69 goes towards debt service, and 30 cents goes for operations and maintenance. So all things being equal, the average homeowner is going to pay about $33 more next year than the current fiscal year for the property taxes. That's a 3% increase. And the reason for that is even though the property tax rate is the same, right, that's just one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is, well, what's your property worth? So valuations of property in the district are increasing on average by 3%. Okay. Developer contributions total $311,000. That's 3% of the total resources. So when the bonds were issued, the developer agreed to pay the difference between what we're going to collect in property taxes for debt service and what our annual debt service obligations are. So if the cost side, our debt service side, is higher than our revenue side, the developer subsidizes that. So for next fiscal year, we're thinking that's going to be about $311,000. Our unspent bond proceeds, as well as tax collections, earn interest. We try to make sure that all of our money is working on our behalf, and so we've programmed in $137,000 for the potential to earn interest income next year. Okay, looking at the expenditure side of the equation, the largest spending category is $7.3 million. That's 79% of the total budget, and that is for capital outlay. We do expect by the end of next fiscal year that the district is going to spend all of those bond proceeds by the end of the year. We want to provide that capacity, right, so that if the infrastructure is completed, we will acquire that infrastructure from the developer. That will include the acquisition of roadways as well as a railroad crossing. Debt principal and interest payments total $1.9 million, or 20% of the total. So that's principal interest, as well as there's a small component for banking fees in that pie wedge. And then about 1%, or $53,000, is for operations, and that will pay for district administration. That will pay for our district engineer, which is an outsourced firm, as it also pays for street and roadway maintenance on district roads. You'll see that there are no ending fund balances here, and that's because we do anticipate that the district will consume all of its resources during the year. Okay, so with that, the resolution that's before you, if you adopt it, it would approve the fiscal year 2026 tentative budget in the amounts previously expressed. It would require us to make the tentative budget available and filed with the town clerk and on our website. And it establishes a public hearing and notice for final budget adoption for June 23rd, 2025. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for the district treasurer? No? I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to adopt resolution number 2025-0033.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Having no more further business for the Rancho Cerrito Community Facilities District, we'll adjourn that, and now I will commence with the Quail Creek Community Facilities District meeting and call that meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, may I have a roll?
Board Member Gillespie.
Here.
Board Member Lisk.
Here.
Board Member Lytle.
Here.
Board Member Morales. Board Member Priolo. Vice Chair Egbert.
Here.
Chair Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the call to the public. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the district board on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda, or any issue the district board can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the district board may not discuss the items, but individual members of the district board may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the district board, may ask the staff to review the matter, may ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda. I have no cards, speaker cards for this one. Anybody like to address the district board? Seeing no movement, I will close the call public. Move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now we come to item number 5. Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 49 regarding the Quail Creek Community Facilities District 2026 tentative budget.
Thank you. And we have a return visit from our district treasurer for the Quail Creek Community Facilities District, Mr. Mariotti.
Mr. Chairman, I miss the days of the really long read of the full agenda language, but
Well, I always challenged you to be shorter than the reading of it, but you always failed me, so we
now
figured
it's
we might as well
extremely
just
hard,
cut
yeah.
down on
All
the
right.
agenda item.
So tonight, the Quail Creek Community Facilities District Board will have an opportunity to adopt its tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, which also commences on July 1. The tentative budget sets the budget ceiling for the year ahead, and the final budget, whatever gets approved, can't be any higher than what's adopted tonight. So a little bit of information about the Quail Creek District. It was formed on September 12th, 2005. It encompasses 1,192 acres, all within the Sahuarita town limits. And at build-out, it's planned to have 2,600 residential units in it. Now, I should point out that, and some of the confusion at times, is the Quail Creek Community Facilities District is not the entire Quail Creek Community Development. So that development is actually 2,113 acres total. And so the district represents about 56% of the Quail Creek development. So not everybody that lives out there is subject to what we're going to talk about tonight. So the county assessor provided us new information in January about the assessed valuations on properties within the district. And the latest information indicates that there are 1,497 residential units in the district. That represents a 58% build-out figure. This is 94 more than last year, so we've had 7% growth rate in the number of units in the district. About 5% of those, or 69, are listed as rental properties. So this slide provides some historical information on the property values. You can see the trajectory of growth over time, because the growth for a while was sort of slow and steady, but it has picked up in more recent years. Latest valuation of all property is $52.3 million, and that is $5.2 million, or 11% more than last year. The district is a tax levying public improvement district whose purpose is to finance the acquisition and maintenance of public infrastructure and facilities. And when it was formed, there was a bond election that authorized $30 million in bonding capacity and also authorized a secondary property tax to repay those bonds. Shortly thereafter, $12.7 million in bonds were issued. So that would leave us with $17.3 million in available bonding capacity for the future, potentially. Of the bonds that were issued, $4.3 million remains outstanding, and they will be paid off by the end of fiscal year 2030. At that point in time, the property tax that we're going to talk about here in a minute, that's for debt service, is going to go to zero unless additional bonds are issued, and there's no plans for that. All right, so what did the bonds pay for? They paid for Campbell Avenue, Quail Creek Parkway, portions of Quail Creek Veterans Municipal Park, including land acquisition, numerous wash crossings, landscaping, and sewer lines. So even though the district is legally separate from the town, because the district board are also council members, and because town staff also function as district staff, and we use the same policies, procedures, and resources, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board says that it needs to be pulled into the town's financial reports, otherwise it would be misleading to the general public. As such, the town considers it a blended component unit, and it's reported as a town special revenue fund in the town's financial reports. And other than the budget schedules that you have before you, the district does not issue separate financial reports. So with that, the tentative budget for 2026 is programmed at $1,107,640. The budget is balanced in that our financing sources are equal to our financing uses. This budget is higher than the current budget by about $22,000, so it's a 0.2% increase in the overall budget. This slide provides the composition of the district's revenues and sources. The district levies a property tax, and that tax provides 98% of the total resources for the district. And that totals $1.09 million. There are two components to the property tax, a debt service component and an operations and maintenance component. The combined tax rate is $2.26 per $100 of net taxable assessed valuation. And that will be 14 cents lower than the current fiscal year. That represents a 6% reduction in the tax rate. So all things being equal, the average homeowner is going to save about $7 next year, which is a 1% reduction on their tax liability. So we have a 6% reduction in the rate, but again, that is only one side of the equation. The other side are the assessed values, right? So the fact that 6% rate reduction, but a 1% liability change means that on average, the homes out there increased in valuation by about 5% since last year. So of this tax rate, 30 cents goes for operations and maintenance, and $1.96 will go for debt service. And again, in 2030, that debt service component will go away entirely, and the tax rate will just stay 30 cents in perpetuity to pay for operations and maintenance of infrastructure that was acquired. We've programmed in $5,000 for potential interest earnings, and that's mostly from property tax collections that will sit in a trust account. And then our beginning fund balance is rounded off at $13,300, and that's collections in the current year that are going to carry forward to next year to be used to make future debt service payments. This slide provides the composition of the district's expenditures. As you can see, the vast majority, 86%, $953,000, goes towards making debt principal and interest payments, as well as some banking fees. And then operations only makes up 14%, or $154,000 of the total budget. That operating budget will pay for district administration, street and right-of-way maintenance, and will pay for a portion of the costs for the Quail Creek Veterans Municipal Park. There are no ending fund balances here because the district is expected to consume all of its resources during the year. So with that, the resolution that you have before you, if you adopt it, would approve the fiscal year 2026 tentative budget. It requires us to file the budget with the district clerk and make it available on the website. And the resolution also establishes a public hearing and notice for final budget adoption on June 23rd, 2025.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Any questions for our district treasurer? Seeing none, I will open it up for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to adopt resolution number 49.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Having no more further business of the Quail Creek Facilities District, we're adjourned and return to our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll, please?
Councilmember Gillespie.
Here.
Councilmember Lisk.
Here.
Councilmember Lytle.
Here.
Councilmember Morales. Councilmember Priolo. Vice Mayor Egbert.
Still here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. And we have one presentation tonight. Devin Stalder, our Park and Rec Director, will be presenting this item and recognizing Porter Wilson for his contributions to the Sahuarita flag football and other things in the community. And I think it's May 8th would have been his 100th birthday. So I think coincidentally, we have 100 over there, along with all kinds of goodies. So
Yeah.
invite them back at every council meeting if they're going to come back.
If they bring treats, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mayor Murphy, members of the council, thanks for having us tonight. So as you're aware, we've been working closely now with the Santa Cruz Valley Historical Society, and they've drummed up a presentation and a little bit of history lesson for us tonight. I was blown away when they presented it to me, and I think it's good information for the rest of the community to have. So I'm excited tonight to introduce Amy Millett and Mary Mack Chernosky, so I'll invite them up because they will be presenting tonight. I'm not stealing this thunder.
Good. Well, I remember when I was elected to the school board in 2004, Mr. Wilson's name still came up, even though that he had been retired many years. But we fast forward now, almost 20 years later. So welcome.
Thank you. Do we look this way or this way?
To us. They'll see the screens, but present to us.
Okay, well, we're really excited to talk tonight about Porter Wilson. And anybody who's from Sahuarita or lived here, grew up here, has had him as a teacher because he worked here for 35 years. And he was really instrumental in developing flag football. He actually invented a company and everything, but let me move this along so we can see his face. There he is on the left in 1953 when he came to Sahuarita and worked in the old brick school building that's behind the pecan groves. And he was hired as a PE teacher and developed their PE program for the elementary schools. So he was the 6th grade boy PE teacher. We'll talk more about how he saved lives and invented things and made a company. And this is a picture of him just before he passed on in 2000. Okay. And just a few of his accomplishments in those 75 years. She'll be Vanna White. Okay. So he was a World War II veteran. That's kind of why we have the red, white, and blue going on. And plus, it was Memorial Day yesterday, so this is all working out great. But got a Purple Heart there, and if you were in his classes, he actually liked to talk about his war stories a long time. Our friend Oscar said he would make a timeline across the chalkboard, get to the Bermuda theater that he was in, and then talk about that the whole rest of the class and never get to the real world history. But anyway, he was an awesome PE teacher. We have some people in the crowd who had him as a teacher. They're giggling. So he developed the President's Award Program. If you did that when you were little, I did some of that. Anyway, so he wrote the rules and organized men and women's flag football leagues in Sarita and in Tucson and then everywhere around here. So number 4, he invented this belt right here, and it was better than the other ones. He actually has a patent on it. He refined it over 30 years because it makes a sound.
Oh.
So you're not in question if the flag came out or not when you're running around. So, and it's funny, one of the teachers who had him as a teacher, we actually went to the schools and we talked about this stuff, and she's like, I remember him. He was a teacher. We'd be going like this all day, and he'd get so mad at us when he's the one who invented the belt. The kids pulled it too many times. It drove him crazy, too. Okay, let's see. And then along with the flag football, we'll talk about what he did for swimming, and he also invented a breathing resuscitator machine. So, moving on. This is a... Sure.
Porter Wilson used to take the kids swimming in Tucson. There was no pool here. And if they didn't have money, they'd stop for ice cream afterwards. And Oscar Gomez, one of our people on the board, said he didn't have money. Okay, so when Porter got installed into our school's Hall of Fame, Oscar brought him a whole roll of none to thank him for all the time, because he didn't want any of the kids that didn't have money to feel that they couldn't have an ice cream. He's that kind of person. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a picture of him in front of that old school that still stands over there in the Pecan Grove. On the front row, there's my friend Barbara, who just passed on in November. She was in his class, and they were in the graduating. This is from 1956, the picture. But she was in the last graduating class, the 8th grade class of 1958, before the new school here, elementary in Sarita was built. Anyway, so you can see on the bottom there that's Porter Wilson in the back with that referee shirt on, and you can see the kids have their flag belts on, and he is having them run the plays. He actually started this with another man, Norman Adams, who was from Tucson, and then that man retired, so now he gets the credit for tweaking this belt, making it good, and also writing the rule book for flag football. So we're excited to promote him a little bit now, because we hear that in the 2028 Olympics there's going to be flag football. So we're like, hey, maybe if we get this known enough, somebody will come down here and do a documentary or something, you know. So we're just trying to get him on the map so we can get our awesome little town of Sarita on the map too. Okay, so when he, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, when he was doing this, there wasn't much for women sports. But flag football, anybody could play because it wasn't tackle. So he really helped those get started, and they love him still. This Porter Wilson Award, this is from their website like 2 months ago. So they have a Porter Wilson Award they've been giving out every year since 2000 when he died. And this IWFFA is the International Women's Flag Football Association. So they love him. So because he gave equipment out, these belts out, and the other things to get teams started around here. And around the world, too. So, let's see. Anyway, covered that. So, on my Alexa at home, if I ask Alexa who invented flag football, this is what she says. According to Wikipedia.org, the creation of the game of flag football is attributed to Porter Wilson, who is the man who invented flag tag belts and flags used as equipment to play the sport. So, I may have... I once asked her first, and she started talking about before the war and World War II, that the Army guys were playing it, but they were getting hurt, so touch football came about. So he didn't invent the whole thing, but what he did was he standardized it, wrote the rules, made the belt, and then got the leagues all started. So that's why he's attributed to inventing flag football. So anyway, so what he said was, well, here's a quote from him right here. Inventing is a thankless task. The hardest thing in the world is getting any product into a department store. Marketing is all tied up by the biggies. So he went through all that, and he got his product in the market anyway, and he had the clubs in the Sarita schools help package these and send them out and organize them, and then he would give money to the clubs for that. So he was instrumental that way. And his idea was that flag football is for regular football, like Little League is for the big leagues. Kids can play it and not get hurt, but it gets them, gives them knowledge of all the moves and stuff in flag and football. So that's what he was trying to do here in Tucson. And like I said, it went nationwide, then worldwide. So
Before you turn that, I want you to see that one right here in the center. I don't know if you can see it, I think you can. Girls participate too. We're talking about the 50s and the 60s, okay? When some of us were wearing crinoline underneath our skirts, right? Ladies, those of us who are older, okay? And we had uniform pants that you wore that were like, I don't know, little boxer shorts, lunch that snaps on with Jim, right? And they thought it was not womanly to do that kind of stuff. And so he had the foresight to say anyone can play this game. So that's huge.
okay, now I'm going to let Mac talk about other things he did for the community.
Okay. And Mac's going to use her little cheat sheets, okay? So this is about swimming. A gravel quarry was dug when the Dallas Highway was being constructed through the pecan groves. Over time, it filled with water. One day, as several boys were walking along the edge, the dirt gave way, causing one of the boys to slide into the pond where he drowned. The community was horrified. The PTA and school board worked together to form a Learn to Swim program. Porter Wilson was hired to be the director. Porter got certified in the Red Cross Water Safety Program as an instructor and taught swimming lessons. 15,000 students between 1957 to 1977. He drove a busload full of students to Tucson's YMCA for swimming lessons and then took each child home when their lessons was over and bought those ice creams that I talked about and gave them a dime if they couldn't afford their ice cream, which was amazing, okay? A dime was big money back then. Porter was passionate about teaching each child in Sahuarita to swim. In the 1960s, when Sahuarita High School was built, Mr. Wilson and concerned parents convinced the school board to build the pool, which they named after him. With the help of Dr. Maxwell Palmer, Porter designed and patented the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation device he called the exchange lung. Porter is a true hero in our communities. Eyes for the work he did to save lives. He had many patents. That belt was patented, the resuscitation was patented, so he's quite a smart man. Next, Coach Wilson. Porter Wilson had the initiative to get things done and to do them right away. He standardized the flag football game by making a rule book, which Amy mentioned, and inventing the patented sonic belt. He taught kids to swim and served many diving and to take them from Tucson until the pool was built in Sahuarita. He was a large man, larger than life ambition to make things happen against the odds of living in a small town with limited means at that time. Can you imagine? We were really small in 1994, weren't we? We honor and remember him not only as the founder of flag football, but the founder of a small community in Sahuarita. We are collecting 101 stories for him for his 101st birthday next year. So on our website, if you go to SahuaritaHistory.org, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Santa Cruz, thank you. Santa Cruz Valley History.org. That's why she backs me up. I'm older, and I get a little nervous up here. So, Santa Cruz Valley History.org. You can give remembrances. I know you were asking about that, Deborah. And so Debbie Walls. And so there's a lot of people that remember. I was just touched. I never had the privilege of meeting him, but all I could hear was, wow, what did he do for us? What did he do for us? And they just told story after story after story. So we want to get Sahuarita on the map. This comes from our book that we wrote about our town, Sahuarita, Arizona, right? And so the SEG was, of course, the Historical Society. Those monies, for the book still go to the Sahuarita Educational Enrichment Foundation. We want to educate our community. From the educational programs in our schools that we have, we just finished our pilot program at Wrightston Ridge, local history, okay, to adult talks that we have in the community, to this. okay? We want to put Sahuarita, Arizona on the map, and it richly deserves to be so. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody enjoy the treats in the back.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for contributing the rich history. I know we did the POW camp dedication not too long ago, and I always reflect back in 1994 when we were established as a town, but you look at the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, lots of activity happened here way before our official recognition as a town.
May I say one other thing?
Yes, you may.
Thank you kindly, Mayor. Since you gave me a good seg, okay, and it is seg, I always tell my kids it's not Segway is something you write. So the markers were thrilled that we formed that partnership with the Devin Stalder and Dylan Pruitt with the Parks and Recs, but we'd like to get a few more up. And they have a limited budget, and they're very generous, and so we're going to be having a campaign to raise money. To put a lot more markers. We hope to raise $300,000. I know that's ambitious, but I'm putting that out to you all. So if you know people who write grants or business people, we're going to be talking to them because there's so many places in this community in Sahuarita that are important to us. And the idea then would be eventually to have walking trails in this community. I know we talked about that, like to see that happen. And then we could have a map to show all the people that come to our community. Get the realtors to give them a book. Here, welcome to our community. Here's a book on Sahuarita. And get those maps out, get those markers up, and be proud of this community as we are. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Next, we move to item number 6, which is call to the public. The call to the public is now open. Individuals may speak for 3 minutes, spokespersons 10. The council cannot discuss matters not on the agenda. However, at the end of the call to public, council members may respond to criticism, request staff to review the issue, or add the topic to a future agenda. I don't have any call to public cards. Does anybody like to address the council on our town council meeting? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public. And now we come to a brief summary of council member current events. Councilmember Priello. Dr. Gillespie. Kara?
One personal note, I am now a grandmother. My daughter had my first grandson.
Congratulations.
And just to let you know, 16 years ago, about this time is when I announced that I was pregnant with my youngest. So, it's full circle.
Absolutely. Nothing? Debbie? No? Ed?
I had the privilege of attending the high school graduation at Sahuarita High. And I was very proud, not only because my granddaughter was graduating, but of all the young people there. I looked at that and said, these are the people who are going to be our leaders. A lot of people put public education down, but they showed and they spoke of how great the public education system in this country is. These young people, these people who have put everything they've had for the past 12 years out to walk down that aisle, to say thank you and achieve what they've achieved. Every day we see them, we should say thank you, because they are our future, and they are going to grow and be up here. They're going to take over Phoenix, they're going to take over Washington, D.C., but those children are great. And to all the parents, thank you, because without you, they wouldn't have been there. They would not have been there. You can't just leave it up to the schools or the churches. It has to come from home, too. And when you listen to the valedictorians there, they spoke, and it wasn't just from high school. It was from home. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, I attended each of the graduations, and to your point, Council Member, SHS, the students had $9 million worth of scholarships. Walden Grove had over $10 million of scholarships, and they were both great evenings. They also listed where a lot of these kids are going to college, and I remember specifically in Walden Grove, one's going to the Coast Guard Academy, which is one of the toughest ones to get into, and one to the Merchant Marine Academy, and others from SHS as well. So it's, it was really nice to see. And really, they're both huge community events. So thanks to the Sahuarita Police Department, the Rangers, Santa Rita Fire, for keeping everybody safe. Probably those were the safest places in the town based on all of our first responders that we had there in each evening. And of course, my Air Force heart skips a beat when we have our 5 holidays, when we put the American flags up. We're up to 250 American flags throughout our community. And that's been a good relationship with Public Works, led by John Garcia for many years, as well as our Boy Scout and Girl Scouts. But this last the Memorial Day, as well as Veterans Day, the Arizona Rangers Madeira Company have stepped up, and they're also volunteering to help. So another way that the Rangers, do a great job helping our community. A lot of us attended the Global Water Resources ribbon cutting in our Samtec building, and that was a really nice event. And it was really cool to see for me, because I've seen the building empty into the 4 walls, and actually what you can do with the conference room and all the technology that goes into delivering clean water nowadays is pretty amazing. We also attended Sergeant Woodrow was promoted to sergeant here just a couple of weeks ago. That was nice to attend. And also thanks to HR for doing a great health and wellness event. I had a ticket in for a prize. I don't know. I didn't win, but that's okay. But it was another great event. And last meeting, I talked about the gentleman who's at the VA hospital and hospice, who wrote the book, A History of Sahuarita. Not as probably as in-depth as Nuggets is, but they took pictures when I was there, and I went back today because they had the pictures developed. So that's Mr. Rowe. That is probably his grandson, who's in the Army, is coming to visit him this week. I was supposed to go back Thursday instead of today, but he's not doing well. And they asked if I could come back today, so if you could keep him in your prayers. He was a resident, last I remember, in 2015, and then became an author. And the VA is just doing wonderful work, up there with our veterans. So just a great story. And as a reminder, our next regularly scheduled meeting is June 9th. And at this time, Madam Clerk, we'll move to item number 8.
Town Manager's Report.
And we're, being Mr. Dilly's under the weather, we picked somebody much smarter, much better looking, much everything with Bianca Cruz. So she'll be giving the report on behalf of our town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Today, I will briefly go over the town manager's report for the period of April 15th to May 15th. During this time period, we have added 3 new employees to our town family: Reynaldo Nalo, Andreas Flores, and Diego Gonzalez. Reynaldo and Andreas are with our police department, and Diego is with our public works department. We welcome them to the Sahuarita family. Now we will move into major department highlights, and again, I am only pulling out bits and pieces of the report. If you have not had a chance to look at it, I would encourage you to do so, as there is a lot of more information. The Sahuarita Police Department has several new hires: Officers Garcia, Lewis, McCormick, Rivera, and Rubio. For municipal courts, on Friday, April 25th, 30 elementary students from Sahuarita Intermediate School had the opportunity to visit the court and participated in mock trials. The students were joined by Mayor Tom Murphy, Councilmember Lisk, Town Prosecutor Rona Creamer, and Town Magistrate Maria Aviles. For the Town Clerk's Department, Elise Duran, Senior Office Assistant, received a $3,500 Advancing Women Through Education Scholarship from the Women of Quail Creek. Congratulations, Elise. For Parks and Recreation, as many of you may know, we have some exciting news. The splash pad at Animax opened this past weekend. The splash pad will be open daily from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Sahuarita Stars and Stripes drone and fireworks show will be on July 4th. At the end of this presentation, Devin will provide a brief update On the Parks and Recreation side, or on the Public Works side, I'm sorry, the town of Sahuarita has been selected to receive a grant from the Recycling Partnership. This grant will provide the town with an estimated $250,000 in direct financial assistance. The primary objective of this grant is to support the distribution of standardized curbside carts to Sahuarita residents. On the community development side, Vanessa Valles, technical coordinator, earned her bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders from NAU. Building safety, in conjunction with Santa Rita Fire's prevention staff, attended an all-hands quarterly meeting to discuss our joint fire prevention operations and to receive training on code requirements for carbon dioxide systems and related code requirements. On the economic development and public affairs side, the town of Sahuarita hosted the Finnish mining delegation on a site visit focused on the mining industry and sector collaboration in southern Arizona. We will now jump into the capital improvement projects. The intersection improvement project at Nogales Highway and Abrego Drive continues to make significant strides towards completion. In April, the project witnessed substantial progress across multiple facets. Crews successfully completed the paving of the new right turn lane, enhancing traffic flow for vehicles turning right onto Abrego Drive. And with that, now I will turn it to Devin Stalder, Director of Parks and Recreation. He will provide a brief update on our upcoming Sahuarita Stars and Stripes drone and fireworks show.
Thanks. And as he's coming up, I was able to present to the Green Valley Council last week, I think it was, and we got a lot of thumbs up and good kudos for that turn lane and the curb cut that's happening, because a lot of the Green Valley residents come up to Duval Mine Road. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's not only benefits our residents, but it benefits the flow of economic development to the rest of our community. So, in region, thanks. Devin.
Me again.
You again.
Mayor Murphy, members of the council, thanks for giving me a minute to give you an update on our July 4th celebration, the drone show and fireworks. I provided you all an email on Friday with just a heads up on this heads up publicly. And part of that reminder was looking back into the fall when we approached you all with some challenges we were facing with the fireworks show, really the longevity of the show in the community, and where we were going to shoot that show. And we put our thinking caps on and got creative and are now approaching this upcoming show with a little bit of a hybrid approach. As you remember, for safety concerns, we weren't able to find a location that was close to Animax Park to shoot the fireworks. We had great conversations with Santa Rita Fire. We had great conversations with some of our partners to potentially use properties, and we just couldn't find something that was close enough that we felt we would do a service to the community with the show. So we've re-engaged our drone provider, Open Sky Drones. They have a new piece of equipment in their arsenal to allow us to shoot fireworks from the drones. And we're also going to have a hybrid approach with a smaller pyrotechnics at the Animax Park for July 4th. So it's going to feel a little bit similar to what we saw at Winterfest, I believe last year and the year before, where we had fireworks, close range proximity fireworks with the drone show. But we just wanted to provide an update that that's the direction we're going. And with that, I don't know if this video has sound, but we have a little bit of what we tried to do is our best to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about with the show. So we'll have our drones, more this year than I think we've had in the past, 250. The one thing that, because it's new, they don't have a lot of video of, is the fireworks coming off the drones in sequence. So that'll be incorporated. And then we'll have the close ground pyrotechnics coming off around Animax Park for those in attendance. So we're excited for this approach. We think it's going to give us longevity into the future for our programming. But with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks. And when I was at both the graduations, that's the type of fireworks that they utilized. And I still thought there was a lot of excitement. It was loud. And you still, I thought, had the same feel. But that was exactly how they did them at both Walden Grove and SHS, because they're in tight quarters over there, right, when you're near the fields. So it'd be exciting to see how they work with the drones as well. But I didn't see anything from a negative perspective at both high school graduations, doing it that way.
Yeah, we're excited for it. I think it's going to be a good time, and we're still going to do fireworks as big as we can with the fallout requirements. So they'll be felt, you'll hear them, they'll be
Yeah.
loud. So we think it'll be a good experience for those in attendance.
Yep. Any questions, comments? No? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mayor and council, that concludes the update on the town manager's report. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for Bianca? I.e. Shane Dilly? Okay, thank you. Great job. Next, Madam Clerk, item number 9.
May 2025 legislative update.
Thank you. And Mina Marcos, our management analyst, will be presenting this item. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Murphy, members of the council. For the record, Mina Marcos, Management Analyst for the Town Manager's Office. Again, it's always a pleasure to be with you here tonight to provide an update on the 2025 Arizona legislative session. As of today, 1,679 bills have been introduced. The days of the legislative session are 135. 351 bills have been transmitted to the governor's office. Of those bills, 214 have been signed by the governor and 137 have been vetoed. The only upcoming deadline that we have in anticipation is, or was, April 22nd, which was the statutory deadline for adjournment. But because of delayed budget talks, the session has extended and is likely to extend until perhaps June.
Do they just unplug the clock? You know, that stuff.
Tonight, staff will present an update on bills signed and vetoed by the governor that are of concern. Then we will highlight both the Senate and House concurrent resolutions, as well as any remaining legislation that is of interest for this session. And finally, we will receive a budget update from Karen Cruz. Council members, SB 2119, signed by the governor on May 7th, requires cities and towns to provide all new business license applicants with information about which model city tax code and local model options the town has selected. After discussion with our fantastic clerk's office, staff would align our current process by adding the model city tax code onto our business license website. And because the business licensing process is electronic, we would just provide the models online with a box to have the applicant check to say, yes, they've received and read the model city tax code options. SB 1353, signed on May 13th, requires municipalities to approve, conditionally approve, or respond to single-family residential building permit applications within 15 working days. Also, another fantastic department that we have in the town of Sahuarita is our Community Development Department. And the turnaround for application processing is fairly quick. So again, no significant effects on the town for this specific piece of legislation. HB 2201, a bill that we have continually discussed throughout the legislative session, signed by the governor on May 12th, prescribes liability for causing wildfires and any cause of action for negligence against the public power entity or electric utility that is related to wildfire. Again, it was a bill of major concern. However, due to the wonderful efforts of our lobbyists, as well as a conglomeration of other interest groups, amendments related to punitive damages have been added to the bill, and the bill language addressed our concerns and was signed by the governor again on May 12th. Finally, SB 1182, signed on May 13th, prohibits a municipality from enacting or enforcing any noise ordinance that prohibits any construction activities between May 1st and October 15th of each year between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. and on Saturday if their construction is being performed in accordance with validity issued building permit by the municipality or county. The bill also requires that a municipality allow for concrete to be poured at least 1 hour before the time. Again, after discussions with both Public Works and Community Development, the adjustment would necessitate a simple code amendment. Public Works will bring an amendment before council on the June 9th council meeting as discussed. Directing our attention over to the vetoed bills, HB 2222, again, a bill that was of concern for the town, would have required cities and towns to submit a report at least 90 days before entering into a settle agreement. The town submitted, again, a veto request, and the bill was vetoed on the 12th. HB 2221 was a bill that had originally had the input of the league and seemed to be heading in the right direction. However, a last-minute amendment declared that the regulation of funding of a city or town's law enforcement agency is a matter of statewide concern, preempting regulation by city, town, or charter city in Arizona. As an issue of local control, the town submitted a veto request, and the bill was vetoed on May 12th. As discussed before in our previous council meeting, all House and Senate current resolutions are sitting in rules. And their final destination, again, will not be the governor's desk, but rather will be to the voters. This is, again, a chance for the majority to decide whether or not they will continue moving forward with specific House current resolutions or Senate concurrent resolutions. Pretty high level, HCR 1008 prohibits a municipal council from levying any food tax or any tax without a 2/3 vote from council. The food tax bill would require cities and towns that currently have a food tax rate above 2% to maintain their existing rates, but a city like us, the cap would be 2%, and the council would have to go to the voters to seek a check for that tax. And then finally, 1318 and SCR 1014 establishes a mechanism, again, to reduce individual tax income rates starting from tax year 2026 by applying a 50% of state structural surplus as determined by the JLBC towards rate reductions. Again, our issue is the automatic trigger that adjusts income tax is a concern to our source of revenue and the instability of that. Finally, HB 2033 imposes a statewide mandate requiring all cities and counties with populations over 5,000 to adopt an instant online permitting process for residential solar and energy storage installations by January 2027. Due to the advocacy led by our counterparts from various jurisdictions as well as counties, opposition has mounted against this bill. It is likely that this bill will not move forward for the remainder of this session. And with that, I will turn it over to Karen Cruz to talk about the budget.
Good evening, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am still in awe of the story about Porter Wilson. That is the coolest thing, and I cannot wait to be a part of continued activities around honoring him.
And they brought cupcakes, too, more than you brought, so they're welcome back quicker than you are.
Next time, Mayor, and next time, I
Okay.
promise. Just very quickly, Mayor and Council, I wanted to give you a quick update on the budget. In the weeks leading up to budget negotiations, there were two issues you remember that had been challenges that the legislature needed to address before they dug into the budget. One of those was the parent as caregiver situation that was rectified. The legislature appropriated the funds. The governor signed that a couple of weeks ago. The next outstanding issue was dealing with Proposition 123, which is the funding for education out of the state land trust. That is due to expire at the end of this fiscal year. Both the Republicans and Democrats have decided to put that issue aside for now. They'll resurrect that next year and tackle that next session. There is enough money in the baseline budget they've scrounged together to cobble together the 30 million or so that is allocated for education. So they're going to put down their swords, as they say, and then pivot directly to the budget. They are still far apart. The Senate is still advocating for a $5 million appropriation or discretionary funding for each member to allocate in their district as they see fit, or they could combine resources together with other members to tackle big projects. The House majority is very opposed to that method of budgeting and prefer the traditional style of the Senate and the House getting together with the governor's office and negotiating a budget. So they're still very far apart at the moment from figuring out even an approach, let alone whether there's any money at all to be negotiated. The House is of the opinion that there isn't any money to be negotiating with, and the Senate has made some, shall I say, some assumptions about funding that could be available to be used. So there's discussions going on. The governor's office has not been involved in these discussions yet, so they do stand far apart. The budget is due to expire at the end of June, and members will start leaving in June. I know Representative Matt Grass from the Arcadia area and Scottsdale area in Maricopa County is getting married at the end of June in Italy, and so he's one of the people that is negotiating the budget. So they're going to start to feel some very real pressure very soon to try to figure out whether or not they just pass a skinny budget, and then if they pass a skinny budget, what's going to be in the skinny budget, which is just a baseline budget, but they might move monies around within that $16 billion and some change budget amount. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Karen. And if I remember correctly, when you're talking about the allocation by certain legislators that the Senate's looking at, wasn't that only for the folks in the majority? So if you didn't have majority representation in your town, you weren't part of that allocation? Is that how they're still looking at it?
Well, the Republicans would get more. The Democrats would get some, but less.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought before they got none. So since we don't have majority representation, nothing was brought to us. But maybe it was just so small, nothing was brought to us anyways.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's nothing that has been brought to you because they haven't decided that that's the way they're going to go. So they're, they don't want, I think there's some consternation by the minority that that's not going to be the approach that they take. And so why get us excited about potential monies coming for specific projects? And again, we're not talking very much money. We're probably talking 2 million, maybe 2.5 million for the Democrats to kind of peanut butter around in their district. But if they're not going to move forward with that approach, then why get us excited and then disappointed if they can't, if they can't deliver on that commitment?
Yeah.
That would make them feel bad.
Yep. And also, the longer it takes, it makes it harder for AC, our director, because, well, the years before they've swept HERF and things like that. So it's hard for us to put together a budget when we don't know necessarily what the impact, sort of the trickle down, will be to us. I know we're not in those dire straits, so to speak, as in years before, but we follow the rules as far as timelines and things. It'd be nice if they did, so we knew what we were working with as we move forward.
Indeed. And to that point, I think the state feels like they're in the same position because of at the federal level, the budget bill that just passed, there's still analysis being done about what, if any, ramifications the cuts will have potentially, especially as it relates to access.
Right.
So Medicaid cuts are deep, and there's analysis being done by all of the states. And we are one of the states that is heavily reliant on federal funds to supplement our access system. That's just the way it was developed way back in the 80s. So there's great concern by state legislators and the governor's office that if they have to make up some amount that is being cut out of the access budget, that will make, that turns everything upside down for them as well.
Thanks, appreciate it. Any questions from Karen, from my left or my right? No? Thanks, Karen, appreciate it as always.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
And that concludes, Mina?
Yep, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it. Madam Clerk, item number 10.
Presentation of the Sahuarita Teen Advisory Council End of the Year Report.
Thank you. We have Lacey Simmons, our Special Events Coordinator, and Caitlin Prouty, a Youth and Therapeutic Rec Coordinator, introduce members of the Sahuarita Teen Advisory Council, and will present a PowerPoint presentation. And I think she brought the youngest stack member with her, didn't she?
She did.
I think that'll just be an ongoing stack member for a number of years, right?
Absolutely.
Till
He
it's
was
official.
only 4 months on Monday, so he has a
There you
while.
Welcome and welcome, Stack.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Lacey Simmons. I am the event supervisor for Parks and Recreation, and as well as an advisor for the Sahuarita Teen Advisory Council. I'm going to turn it over to my co-advisor to introduce herself, and then we'll turn it over to Stack.
Thanks. And after you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your job title and what you do with that.
Awesome. My name is Caitlin Prouty. I'm the Youth and Therapeutic Recreation Coordinator. So I basically oversee all of the youth programs and therapeutic recreation programs. We're hoping to online a couple therapeutic programs coming up here in the fall. So yeah, we got a new recreation lead, Mike Garcia. He is involved in wheelchair basketball and things of the sort. So we're excited. And camp is coming up too.
Yeah, and I know when we talked earlier about the splash pad, that's fully accessible, as well as the playground that's next to it, so that sort of compounds at what direction we've had, and I'm really appreciative of those efforts as we move forward.
Yes, we're very excited.
All right, well, we're very proud to work with these wonderful group of teens. Tonight, I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to give a brief wrap-up of their end-of-the-year project.
Thanks. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Isabella Flythe. I'm the STAC president.
I'm Neri Moreno, and I am STAC's vice president.
I am Abigail Peace, and I am STAC secretary this year.
I'm Sedona Engstrom, and I'm a first-year member of STAC.
Great.
I'm Riley O'Connor, and I'm STAC's historian.
You have to get with Mac Tranowski and over there. They like the history of all the things that are happening.
So today we're going to be giving you guys a presentation on all of the events we've done this year and what we did in our events. How does this work?
There we go.
There we are. So this was our first event of the year. This was the Splash Bash event, and it was done at Animax Park. What we did at the event, we had a slip and slide, water guns, and instead of using real water balloons, because they make a big mess and it's like too much work to clean up, and it was at a park. So we ended up doing reusable water balloons, which was very, very successful and nice. As a little treat for everyone who went to the event, we hid ducks everywhere. As you can see there, we have one hidden in the tree.
Oh.
Sedona found a few of her own. They were hidden all over the park just so that everyone could find them. It was just something fun. This was Spooktacular. Spooktacular, here in the loop, we had our own booth, and we did games. We had a spin wheel, a prize wheel, and you would spin it and you could win mini toys, stickers, and prizes. Our booth was very successful that night. We had a long line with kids and everything. It was pretty fun. We got to see everyone's costumes, and it was very nice. This one was Winterfest. Winterfest we did, as you can see in the tree in the back, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's chains on there. Everyone got to fill out their chain, and they put what they wanted for Christmas from Santa, and then we told them that Santa would see it, and it was super cute. We gave out free hot chocolate there all night. They were able to get hot chocolate and candy canes. They were like flavored candy canes. Some of them were mint, and some of them were just like sweet ones, you know? So that was Winterfest, which was very successful as well. This was our movie night event we had. We played Lady and the Tramp. This was done at the lake, outside of the lake. It was very cold that night, actually. I'm thinking about it, it was very cold, but it was very nice. We had pizza there. There was that food truck, and there were 2 other food trucks. I can't remember the other food trucks. Do you remember? We had Arelitas there.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice. I got hot chocolate from there. It was very good. And we had a range of people show up, actually. We had parents come with their children. It was super cute. We saw people, they set up blankets on the floor. Some of them sat at the tables that we had set up. It was very nice to see, and people stayed through the whole night. We had people show up while we were still setting up and getting the movie screen up, which was very nice to see people there. Next was the Teen Memorial, which was in remembrance of the teens who have passed here. And to remember them, we did lanterns in the lake, and we had little lanterns that lit up, and it was a good night for people to see. Fiesta Sahuarita, for Fiesta Sahuarita, we had it's like darts, but with the soccer ball, and you have to kick it, and it's like Velcro, so that's what we did there. And we gave out water guns. I believe we gave out little ducks. We gave out candy. We gave out our stack bags, and we put stack applications in there too, so that to give more variety, I guess. And throughout the whole night, we had a lot of kids. We had multiple kids come back a bunch of times. Parents tried it, kids tried it. We had like 2-year-olds doing it, but they would throw it. It was it was very nice to see.
That's why you don't want pointy, sharp objects on the end, right?
Not real
Velcro
darts.
works a lot better for that.
And then our last and final event, we did the mural event, which we made a mural to hang up at the new community center. Yes. We painted these. We had people come and they painted them, and it says Sahuarita, Arizona. Everyone got to personalize their own, and it will be hung up in the community center. It was very nice to see people did their own thing. Everyone customized it themselves. So it's not all the same. So it's like it's unique towards the person, and it shows how Sahuarita isn't just one, basically like one, I don't know how to explain it, but it shows that Sahuarita has variety.
Multiple themes.
Yes, that's what it shows. And then, yes, I'm going to pass it over to Abby. She's going to give a nice presentation too.
So just like as joining STAC this year, I've had many interesting opportunities. I've got to meet so many different people that I wouldn't have gone out and met normally. And I've had the chance to grow close to these people right beside me. It's also taught me how to be a very innovative thinker and think on my feet whenever we have a problem, which trust me, we had plenty. And I just learned how to go with the flow better. And then it also helped me become more confident in talking to strangers. I probably wouldn't have been able to do this if I hadn't done STAC. And just being able to always have a smile and just be ready to greet people in whatever state they were in. And so that's how STAC helped me personally this year. Now I'm going to hand it off to Belle, our president.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Okay, first I want to say thank you to all of these wonderful members. They've been really great and helpful throughout the year. Honestly, very supportive. I have a very good team, and I'm very grateful for all of them. So during our presentation, you might have noticed, well, probably not as much, but a lot of our more successful events involved other people not just teens. So it's like teens and their parents coming together, teens and their siblings. So moving on to next year, we're hoping to expand more to have events that involve teens and their parents, or teens and their friends, teens and their siblings, to try to get more involvement in our events. You also might have noticed it was all events, and we want to bring it back to an advisory council. So we're trying to involve more teens in other parts of our government. So like trying to expose them more to like the fire department, police department, other branches, to try to get teens more involved in their community and their government instead of just planning events. So that's our goals for next year, and this year was very successful. So
Thanks. How is recruitment going? Because I know we've always been kind of at a certain number just because of staff, our town staff helping. Has it been good communicating with both schools and the homeschoolers and all of the above to sort of restack, no pun intended, the stack committee?
I think so far, I haven't been able to see our numbers yet on people who have applied, but we've been involving a lot of other people too. So
You just
You're
want
doing great.
talk about the process a little bit and how the numbers are and.
Yeah, so we opened applications about 2 months ago now. We've seen 10 applicants come in, 12 actually, but 2 were duplicates that they adjusted their application, so 10 total. It closed this past Sunday. Hopefully this next year we're looking at changing our model of stack just a bit and opening it up to be a broader townwide project. We're going to see how that goes, but we'll definitely keep you informed.
Thanks. And are you still attending the league meeting that you typically do every year?
Yes, so once we get our stack applicants in and rolling into the stack program, we evaluate who wants to attend, and we try and take at least a group of like 3 up there. So we'll do the same this year.
Yeah, I know there's always a project usually attached to it, right?
Exactly.
So just beat at least like Oro Valley and everybody else
We'll
that's
try
there.
our best.
Okay. Bigger, better, that's always good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for our stack? Oh, were you finished? Yeah. Everybody okay? Thanks. Thanks for contributing to our community. Item number 11 is a consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any negative? Passes unanimously. Next, Madam Clerk, item number 12A.
Discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 2025-0827 and IGA with the Sahuarita Unified School District for the Walden Grove High School traffic signal construction and installation.
Mr. Nalavali, our Public Works Director, will be doing this, and I'm very excited about this particular one because I attended Walden Grove's graduation. Before, that's, and everybody's, well, he'll touch on it, but everybody's pushing hard because I think it goes from this. I think the school board is having their meeting this Wednesday to have concurrent, approvals as we move forward. So, and touch on the fact the Vice Mayor brought up about hopefully being open before the start of school.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Before I get into the item, I just want to say kudos to Devin, Lacey, and the Parks and Recs Department for all the wonderful programs that they put together for our community. I wish that when I was...
Me too.
when I was, in that age group that we had programs like those that help build leadership, because instead of you guys getting NALO, a version of NALO 1.0, it'll be NALO 1.1. So I'm sorry you're stuck with NALO 1.0. But yeah.
That version's pretty good too, so yeah.
Thank you. All right, so October 28th, 2024, Mayor and Council, we had brought the agreement with SUSD for the design of the Walden Grove traffic signals. The item you have in front of you, it's actually for the construction portion of it. We've completed the design. I put together just a really short presentation to go over kind of the layout of what we have planned for the intersection. And I apologize, the picture is not very clear, but we are planning to put lights for at the intersection at Delgado and Sarita Road. There will be a protected left turn into the school. We also had the option of having flashing yellow out there, but my stance on the flashing yellow, I do not like it. I don't know where mayor and council preferences on that, but I do not like it. I feel like there's not enough information and research out there to support it. City of Tucson is actually using it, but they've made some changes to a lot of their intersections because of the confusion it was causing. So the recommendation over here that we received from our consulting, from our design engineer, was to go with the flashing yellow in there. However, after discussions with them, we all agree that it should be a protected left turn, especially since we have we don't want to put that decision on the students that will be making that turn out.
New drivers? Thank
Yes,
you.
with new
I was like,
drivers.
over half of them are new drivers.
I see no problem with that.
Yes.
From a mother that's taught too many teenagers.
Yeah, they already have a lot to think about school and, where to go to, what college to go to. So we don't want to give them that decision. We want to make that decision for them to have that protected left turn in there. So you have your normal layout. We'll have some signage out there. One of the things that we actually got together with our design engineer on and really looked into and kind of excited to present this to fellow traffic engineers.
That's right. All 7 of us.
Yes. Was the turn lane storage on the left turn lane going in there. I know we have the zoo coming in further down the road, but we wanted to address the left turn lane and make sure that we have enough storage and not have the vehicles in that left turn spilled into the through lane, because that's also a safety concern. So with some magic to the traffic timing, the calculated data and everything with the timing on the left turn arrow and the long storage lane for that left turn. Right now, it's 160 feet long. But we've talked and discussed, and we've looked at it again, and we were able to extend that left turn lane from 160 all the way up to about 477 feet.
Oh, nice. That's all the way back to the railroad tracks, right? Exactly.
So it's a little bit before the railroad tracks, but hopefully, based on the numbers. So the original numbers that came out from the analysis actually took into account. They had thought, there's 200 vehicles making the right turn into Sarita Park going into Walden Grove. But what had happened was the analysis that was done was actually before we went out there and put up the delineators out there to prevent the students from making that left turn. So after having those discussions with our design engineer, we were able to look at it again, and we were able to come out with that 477 feet of the storage for additional storage.
Now,
for
Nala,
vehicles.
with technology and things, because obviously the morning is really bad. So are the left-hand arrow turn, is it expandable? I mean, so will there be a longer time in the morning as opposed to at 11 or whatever?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's actually a very good question.
Well, we are engineers, so we only ask good questions.
The positive thing about over here is that we're not relying on loop detectors where you put into the pavement where it senses the traffic of the vehicle on top of it. We'll be putting cameras up there, so that's going to help out a lot with the timing of the vehicle.
So it's like real time on literally viewing it.
Yes,
and
then
judging.
it'll change the time. Yep. So
Super.
we have So that's going to help out a lot with the traffic timing out there.
Now, you talked about
Question.
you talked about
So I'm just
cameras.
curious, because, we're traffic engineers. Like you said, the camera, who's making that decision? Is it like AI computer type stuff, or is it a person? I've never even asked.
Yeah. So it's all programmed into, so a lot of times when we do an analysis, the traffic engineers, they actually calculate based on the amount of traffic that's collected data. They take all the information in, how many turns, how many left turns, which direction, put it together in a formula, and it kind of gives them an output of the different timing for that, and that gets programmed into the camera program of it, and that's where everything comes in. Yeah, well,
Well, it kind of, it watches it,
It gives
right?
it, yes, it watches it, so it's given parameters based on the information that's put in there, but, yeah.
Well, and doesn't that also give us, even if once the safari's successful, the regional wastewater treatment plant, all of
Yes,
that?
all of that.
It gives more flexibility, right? So
That
it's
is
not
correct.
a one and done. As the situation changes.
Yep, it'll change
It can
with
monitor
it.
and can change with it.
That is correct. Yep, yep, very cool. So, one of the things that we're looking at is safety. I mean, of course, we want to make sure our kids, and the community are safe. We're looking at an immediate start on this, and then one of the main things that we're looking at is having this completed before the start of the fall semester. And the good thing about this project is that when they put in Sarita Road, it was well planned where they had actually put in conduits for us to use. So a lot of the work that's gonna be happening is gonna be outside of the road itself, because it's already conduits for them to be able to pull the lines.
Nice.
The only work that will be take up a little bit of time will be the modification to the median to
Yep.
be able to add that additional storage. But we'll be able to get contractors in there, and we've already met with contractors, and we believe we can get this done before the start of the school.
Well, not only are we traffic engineers, we're construction workers as well. So if you need any help, I know at least a couple of our members would be out there.
We'll do.
Pounding nails or whatever you got to do, digging holes.
And with that, our recommendation is for mayor and council to adopt the resolution.
Right. Any questions? Just thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks to SUSD. I know it's been a collaborative effort, not only in sharing the cost, but, trying to get it, everybody has the desire to get it open before school, so.
It's a great partnership.
Great partnership. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-0827.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion other than being enthusiastically approving of it all this time? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Pass it
Mayor.
on to the school district, please. Thanks. And that was actually one that that was on consent agenda, but I thought it was such a good story. I pulled it because I really wanted to celebrate the ability to do that. Madam Clerk, item number 12B.
Discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 2025-0821, adopting the fiscal year 2026 tentative budget.
And we have a return visit from our acting town manager, finance and technology director, an all-around good guy, Mr. Mariotti.
And Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, especially for that last comment. So tonight, as a town council, you're going to have an opportunity to adopt the tentative budget for the town for fiscal year 2026, which also commences on July 1, just like the districts. This will set the budget ceiling for the year ahead. So when we bring the final budget back to you in about a month's time, what you adopt then can be no higher than what we established tonight. So we talked a little bit about the state budget issues, and so some of the challenges that we have with that is that's a big question mark still. So if through the state budget process we happen to get awarded some funding that we didn't build into the budget, we can't, between now and the final budget adoption in a month, we can't increase our budget to accommodate that. We're going to have to make that work within our budget allotment that's adopted tonight. Now, fortunately, for our situation, we have a lot of fund balances that give us that cushion, and those fund balances are so significant that any kind of grant award we may happen, or, may receive would fall within the amount that we have budgeted. But if our budget ever gets tight, this situation with the timing of the state budget becomes much more pressing for us. We're just in a fortunate position. So with that being said, we spent a lot of time going over the budget during our all-day retreat in April. That was also a public meeting, so the good news today is that because we spent so much time and energy at that meeting, this meeting will be much more abbreviated, this presentation will be truncated. Still need to present enough information, for the public, but I have some pressure to be done by 8 o'clock, and it may be from one council member.
Well, how about a lot of pressure?
So, with that said, the tentative budget is programmed at $109,787,630. The budget is balanced in that our financing sources are equivalent to our financing uses. So all the money that we're going to carry forward into the new year, the amount that we're saving that carries forward into the new year, plus all the money we're going to collect next year, or we expect to collect next year, has to be programmed to be spent on something, in a category, a certain specific type of expenditure, like a capital project, or to not be spent and to be set aside as savings for the future, and that would be our ending fund balances. And it's that bucket of ending fund balances, which we'll cover more in depth later on, that provides us capacity to cover any type of funding that we may get that we didn't necessarily anticipate specifically. So this budget is $9.7 million less than the current fiscal year budget. That's an 8% decrease. And it's less because we have less funding sources next year than we had in the current fiscal year. So is that a problem? Is that a concern? Well, almost all of that is related to capital, right? We've accumulated a lot of resources in previous years, including bond proceeds. Bonds were issued, that money was accumulated, built into the budgets, and we're spending a lot of that money. Well, we've spent a lot of it in the current fiscal year too, so overall we have less funding sources. If you look at revenues in particular, revenues are going up next year. We're still in a growth mode, so as long as we're growing, usually your revenues grow as well, but your overall budget may not grow. And so this is one of those situations where it's all related to capital. Okay, so this amount of the tentative budget is also less than what we presented to you during the budget retreat. And that's really tied to the issue that we already talked about with the Rancho Cerrita CFD. So we didn't know that we were going to acquire $8.2 million right at the end of this fiscal year. And so we had programmed that into the presentation during the budget retreat as if that was going to be beginning fund balances next year. But now that we know that that's going to be spent on acquiring infrastructure, those sources go down, but also the expenditure budget next year is going down as well. So those two kind of net against each other. But the overall budget from that perspective, because funding sources are declining, the overall budget has decreased. So within the general fund, we have a reallocation of expenditures. There's no net change overall to the general fund. It's just a shifting of how expenditures were programmed in. So we are reducing the community development department budget by $50,000, and this is really a correction of an error. We had a half an FTE. We gave them a budget allotment of half an FTE too much, so $50,000. Their FTE count that they presented to you during the budget was correct. It's just the dollars associated with that count was too high. So we've corrected that for the tentative budget here. We've reallocated $30,000 of that to my department, Finance and Technology, and that's because we do have a payment to make to the Arizona Department of Revenue for their new software system, their tax collection and tax reporting system. When we put together the budget retreat presentation, we thought 2015 was the last year, but I received something from the league saying that this is going to continue on into next year and probably a couple more years after that. $20,000 was allocated to the Parks and Recreation Department, and that is for some playground surfacing supplies. In particular, it's for the engineered wood chips. This is a safety issue. It was not programmed into their operating budget initially. They had a capital project that was going to redo one of our parks and to handle the resurfacing with that capital project and do more of the rubberized coating instead of the wood chips. But through the CIP process, prioritization process, we did bump the project a year. So that does necessitate, for safety reasons, an addition of $20,000 so we could buy those engineered wood chips. Okay, so the legal level of budgetary control, and if you look at the Auditor General budget schedules, it lends itself to this, is first by fund and secondarily by department. And so we do spend a little bit of time in the presentation to cover the fund budgets in total. It's worth noting that each fund is balanced in the same way that the town overall budget is balanced, and that financing sources equal uses for each fund. Why do we have funds at all? What's the point? Why don't we just have one bucket of money? Well, because there's a lot of strings that come with the resources that we collect, right? Some of those strings are from the law, where we may get distribution of state shared revenues for HERF, which would be the portion of the state's fuel tax, right? Comes to us in the form of HERF revenues, distributed to us based off of our population and fuel sales in the county. Well, we can't just use that for whatever we want. That money has to be set aside for a specific purpose, right? So whenever you have something like that, you're going to create a fund to handle the accounting on that so we can demonstrate compliance when our auditors come to demonstrate to them that we use the money as it was intended to be used in compliance with the law. But moreover, it's not just external restrictions by the law or contracts, also those restrictions that council places on the use of money or designates it for certain purposes. We also set aside a fund to account for that so we can management can demonstrate to the council that we're using that money in its intended purpose for what you have in mind, okay? If there are no strings on the money, that's going to be just put into the general fund. So that's something that, you have an opportunity in the future. If you want to tie up some of it for specific purposes, you could certainly do that with policy changes, resolutions, or ordinances, which would carve out, a portion of the general fund into a totally separate fund or, into one of the existing funds. So if we look at the general fund, that is, again, unrestricted resources here, $68.2 million. It's the largest fund of the town. It's the fund that pays for the vast majority of our operations. It houses or accounts for the vast majority of our staffing, and therefore it has the highest amount of cost. It also has the highest amount of ending fund balances to provide a lot of flexibility as well. Next in line is going to be the transportation fund at $6.65 million. That's where the HERF revenues go, again, restricted, plus our franchise fees go there, and our incremental utility services sales taxes go there too, to be used specifically for basically streets operations, pavement management program, anything related to our transportation system, which is really our roadway system, roadway and right-of-way system. The Grants and Restricted Sources Fund, that's GARS, that's the purple wedge. You see it's a small percentage here. This is sort of our catch-all fund for restricted sources that aren't HERF, right? It's not in the general fund, but they're not significant enough that we're going to create a separate fund for it. So we kind of bucket those monies into this fund here. Next, we have the Capital Infrastructure Improvement Fund. So 100% of our contracting taxes, which is taxes that are generated from infrastructure activity in the town through home sales, through building of roads and building of commercial development, 100% of that we put into this fund. There's no external requirement to do that. Many jurisdictions will put that money into their general fund. We wisely have put it into our capital projects fund, the CIF, Capital Infrastructure Improvement Fund. And we do that because that one-time revenue stream pays for what? One-time costs, capital costs, right? The vast majority of our CIP, Capital Improvement Plan projects, are accounted for in this fund. So next we have our two enterprise funds. That's going to be in the brown wedges there. That's the Wastewater Enterprise Fund and the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. An enterprise fund differs from the other funds in that basically they run like a business. So those enterprises, those operations are to have their own set of fees and charges to pay for all of its own costs, all of the operational costs, the capital costs, and the debt service costs. So you're not going to see like a wastewater project in the CIF. You're going to see a wastewater project in the Wastewater Enterprise Fund. And then we have two funds in the Community Facilities District funds. That's going to be the Rancho Sarita Community Facilities District and the Quail Creek Community Facilities District. tentative budget for those districts has already been approved, so it's kind of perfunctory at this point, but we still have to account for it here because of the things that we talked about before. GASB requires it. Okay, so overall, if we look at our financing sources, so this identifies where we are getting our money from. You see that our beginning balances, savings from the current year, rolling forward to next year, those total $54.6 million. That's nearly 50% of our overall budget. You see that we're very reliant on our revenues from other governments. So we're budgeting $21.8 million, 20% of the total budget, from other funding sources from other governments. That's going to include our state shared revenues, and any grant money that we would get from another governmental entity would be programmed in here as well. Taxes only makes up $19.4 million of the total budget. That's 18%. I think most people would suspect that taxes would make up a larger portion. So these are direct taxes. Obviously, state shared revenues, there's a significant portion. Well, all of that is really tax revenues that's just from another entity that's shared with us. But our own direct tax sources accounts for a fairly small portion of the overall budget. And depending on where you come from, you'd think it would be otherwise. So this would include things such as our general transaction privilege taxes, our construction contracting taxes go here, our franchise fees go here, and this would also include the CFD property taxes are accounted for here. Now,
In AC, that's why, when we talk about tax leakage, you want to capture as many of those dollars in that tax wedge, so they're not going to other municipalities.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. It's worth noting that as part of this tentative budget, we are not proposing any changes to our tax rates or tax structure. Now, maybe the one exception to that would be the Quail Creek property tax, right, where that tax rate's actually coming down. But again, that's a legally separate entity. So next we have charges for services. Those total $8.4 million, or 8% of the total. This is going to, most of this is related to our sewer user fees and now our solid waste user fees, right? So this revenue source compared to the current year budget has gone up a lot, but we have a whole new operation now that we're accounting for. So it's mostly our enterprise fund activity, but there is a smaller component for parks and recreation fees, which would be next in line, and then departments in general have like small charges here and there that also get put into this pie wedge. Licenses and permit fees are programmed at $2.1 million, or 3% of the total. These are mostly generated from growth-related activities in the town. So we got our building permits, a lot of our public works permits will be here. Business permits or business license fees, there's a real small portion for that, are accounted for here because we don't charge for a regular business license. But if you need like a transient business license, there'll be a small component that would be included in here for that. Then you have other revenues at $2.5 million, or 2% of the total. That would represent court fines, investment income, developer contributions, and miscellaneous revenues that wouldn't be classified anywhere else. And then rounding out sources, we have $300,000 for capital project carry forwards. That's more of an accounting treatment, and also proceeds on the sale of assets. If you look at the current year budget, that pie wedge would be much higher because if we were to have debt proceeds, right, that would inflate the budget for that. But in this year, there's no debt issuance prospects, so there's no money accounted for that. All right, so next, again, we have a balanced budget. So now we're going to take a look at the funding uses, and this shows how we intend to spend those resources that we just talked about. So first, we don't spend everything that we have. $41 million, or 37% of the total budget, is allocated to our ending fund balances. And those will carry forward to fiscal year 2027 and beyond. Now, throughout the course of the year, there might be opportunities to amend the budget where we might tap into some of that if there are opportunities that present themselves. But even year over year, we tend to have a fairly substantial carry forward balance. Then the rest of the budget is $68.8 million, and that would represent our spending budget, and there are three components to that. Debt service at $6.4 million. What do we use debt service for? Well, that's our principal and interest payments on our debt. which would include the CFD debt, the enterprise fund debts, and any debt in the capital infrastructure improvement fund, which is actually the small portion of this. So a lot of our debt is really related to either the business-like operations or community facilities districts. But we use debt to buy infrastructure, right? Assets. We cannot use debt to pay for operations. The state laws don't allow for that. So we can't balance our operating budget on the back of debt. Capital items programmed in at $20.3 million, or 19% of the total budget. This includes the town's capital projects as well as the Rancho Cerrito CFD infrastructure acquisitions and some other equipment, and some project management costs all also fall under capital outlay. Operations comes in at $42.1 million, 38% of the total budget. And we'll look a little bit more closely at that. So if we take that $42.1 million and reflect it across our 12 departments, you see how that shakes out. This is sorted from high to low, high on the left, low on the right side, and you see that the police department is the department with the largest budget at more than $14 million. That is the largest department because it has the most amount of staff. It's also operates on a 24/7, 365 schedule. Next in line is our Public Works Department with a budget of more than $12 million. This would include our enterprise funds, but most notably, this is much higher than it is in the current fiscal year because the solid waste enterprise is new, so that's inflating that budget. Parks and Recreation comes in third with a budget of nearly $5 million. And one of the things you're going to notice on this slide is that, generally speaking, the departments that provide services directly to our citizens and other constituents are the departments that have the largest budgets. So the administrative departments are the ones that have the smallest budgets, most notably the mayor and council budget coming in 12 of 12.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, a deeper dive into our $20.3 million capital budget. It includes that $7.28 million for Rancho Cerrito roadway acquisitions. In our capital improvement plan, we have 21 projects that are programmed. Most notably, $5.85 million for the police department building expansion and renovations project. We have $1.62 million for El Toro and La Villita Roads multi-use paths. That's funded from PAG, RTA, not RTA, I'm sorry, PAG. Parks and Recreation has 5 projects at $1.3 million. In that, we have the Animax Maintenance Yard Expansion, the Animax Parking Lot Expansion Project, the Lake Park Repair Design. I know that was a very high priority for the council that we start moving on that. There's a telehandler lift for $125,000. That's a large piece of equipment. That one's a good value, though, because that one pays for itself in less than 5 years, because right now we're renting equipment. So we're avoiding those rental costs for a capital cost. And then there's other equipment replacement also included in that number.
AC, I know when we had the budget retreat, there was going to be, how do you handle the ad-alt for the pickleball courts? Because I thought we had a conversation about the expansion over at Animax to potentially include that. How does that work? Would you have a...
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we're prepared for that quite yet, but that's where those ending fund balances can come into play.
Okay.
So if we need to, we can tap into those by amending the budget during the year.
Right.
Or we could even make the change for the final budget if we know it. Just what would happen is it'd be a reallocation of the use side, reducing ending fund balances and programming it in as capital outlay.
Right.
If we can't figure it out in time for the final budget, though, we can always amend the budget next year.
I just wanted to put that on just because, if you talk about a cap, right, you
Yes.
can't go over because we have that reserve capacity. We can dig into that because it's still within the cap.
Correct.
Thanks.
He's a finance guy. He can find us money.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't increase the budget after you adopt it tonight. Not without violating the law anyways. So let's see. Next, we have 3 projects for the police department totaling $807,000, and that's for police vehicles and equipment. More specifically, it's for new and replacement vehicles and radios. Then we have the Walden Grove High School traffic signal. We just talked about that. That's $750,000. We have $550,000 for the court parking lot expansion as well as a security wall. We have $443,000 for 3 technology projects. That would include replacement of infrastructure equipment. So that's all your back-end stuff. That's your switches, your routers, any wiring and servers would fall under that. It also includes PC and laptop replacements as one of the projects, and also replacement and enhancements to audiovisual equipment. And then there's 6 other projects totaling $946,000. Those would include town hall safety upgrades, streets equipment, that's going to be big equipment, town hall courts HVAC units need to be replaced. We have fleet replacement vehicles. There is a wastewater project for plant odor control system improvements. So we're going to have the design scheduled next year with the idea that it'll be construction in 2027. And then furniture and fixtures fall under this category. So also within capital outlay, we have, that's not a project and not a CFD issue, is $550,000 for inter-org allocations, indirect cost allocations, and payroll. And then there's another $214,000 for non-CIP equipment. That also falls in this capital outlay. Okay, so the budget can be summarized as follows. So we're going to start the year with $54.6 million. That's our savings that carries forward. We expect to collect $54.9 million next year from taxes, state shared revenues, charges for services, etc. We got those other resources at $300,000, giving us our budget figure. So those are our total sources. We have a spending budget of $68.8 million. That's going to leave us with ending fund balances of $41 million. The difference between beginning and ending balances is a decrease of $13.6 million. Nothing to be alarmed by that because we're putting the money to use. Again, we're going to be acquiring infrastructure in the CFD, right? And we're going to be doing a lot of capital work as well, all those things. So it's really the capital side that's driving it down. On the operational side, we're in balance. And actually, our fund balances increase as a result of operational activities. All right, so if the tentative budget is adopted tonight, we'll schedule a public hearing and final budget adoption agenda item for your June 23rd council meeting. And with that, 7:59, Mr. Mayor.
I know, I'm watching right here, AC. And you have 1 extra minute because I asked a couple of questions or made a couple of points. Any questions from AC, for AC? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-821.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I'm holding off adjournment until everybody agrees to at least take a cupcake or two, or more than one, because they did a lot of effort to bring that in. So as long as everybody agrees that they're going to bring some home or have some now, we're adjourned. Thank you.